This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Friday afternoon webcast. Thanks for joining us. I've got everybody muted. You can use the chat window if you want to ask a question while I'm doing the presentation. And I am recording this for you guys to take a look at later if you want to go to the website or the YouTube channel. So we'll just wait a couple more seconds for some more people are just joining now. Okay. So this is our first webcast of our webcast series this fall. I always like to do the quantity takeoff bit first because it really represents the start of our technology gap that we always talk about during the Builterra presentations. And it's something that we've been working on quite a bit actually over the summer on the Design Connect extension for AutoCAD Civil 3D. So we can take a look at some live demo today and overall presentation of how to get it set up. So I hope that you get something out of the presentation, and if you want to get back to us after the presentation to help set it up for your company, obviously we're totally into helping out there. So this is the agenda for today's presentation. We will take a quick look at the Builterra platform and some of the concepts of how to set up a pay item in order to extract quantities from AutoCAD Civil 3D. We'll go through some of the basic AutoCAD quantities, polylines, polygons, blocks, things of that nature. We'll also look at the Civil 3D object quantities like pipes and surfaces. We'll talk about that. And we'll also look at the property sets that's available in Civil 3D 2017, 18, and 19. Property sets are new to most people, but they're a really great way to enhance the data properties of any object in Civil 3D. And we'll finalize the presentation by looking at how to export all of this information to Excel for your schedule unit prices. Again, for those who joined a bit late, if you have questions, I am monitoring the chat window, and you can ask me questions there if you have any questions during the presentation. And certainly at the end of the presentation, you can start asking questions as well. So this is the technology gap that we alluded to before, where once you do all these great designs using Civil 3D, it would be really great to be able to capture that information and put it directly into your bid or tender. So Design Connect was built to do just that. And when I had built it, I really looked at the concept of being able to just do your job as long as you use some form of standard, consistency in your CAD drawings. You should be able to query for quantity information. So this means, blocks with attributes or polylines, they should be on the right layer, this kind of idea. So back to basics around CAD standards. Okay, so this is what we're going to be looking at today in that technology gap. So a quick overview of Builterra. It is an online platform. It's built on the Microsoft Azure platform. There is no IT requirement whatsoever. You can just log in with your email and a password. And all of the projects are online and quickly available through the web portal. So this is a nice graphic of a shapefile that's been overlaid into the big map, so you can get a context of where your project is and what it looks like. Any details for the project are also provided here for things like cost estimating and search. The inspection product is built on the same web portal, just that this is what you call the inspection interface. And this is for your mobile data capture, photos, etc. This is the nice photo map. So every photo you pick is geo-referenced and available through the application. Just like having your own iCloud for your company, this allows any viewer, a free viewer, to log in with their email and password and view the photos captured by the inspection team. It's a great way to grab information and import it into AutoCAD, by the way. So we'll do another webcast on that this fall. We're going to do a whole session on AutoCAD extensions for Builterra. When you use it for the tendering piece, this is a standardized method to create bid packages. Those bid packages contain the schedule unit prices, as well as all of the standards and specs that are attached to the standard catalog. The drawings and reports are all external PDFs that can be uploaded in order to create a single bid package available to the construction companies. So this is what Builterra does, is it provides that central location, and that's why we can connect to it through CAD and automatically populate the pay items through the CAD environment. So this is a look at the edit sections, and you'll see some of that live in a second. So we're looking at a sewer pay item list here. So it's important that if you're pulling from CAD that you want to augment your pay item list with properties that are extractable from CAD. In other words, the diameter, material, length, all these things can be pulled right out of CAD. So you can start off by using the pipe networks. That's the lowest hanging fruit with Civil 3D, and you should be able to extract, anywhere from 30 to 50% of your bid directly from CAD if you set things up properly. And it'll perform real-time cost estimating. You'll see some of that today as well. So this is from historic data that's been added to the Builterra site. If you've been using it for bidding or historical cost estimating, then you should be able to get this pricing in your CAD environment as well. So it's all integrated and connected. Exporting to the spreadsheet is our goal. In other words, we can grab items from CAD or through our bid and export it directly to the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is used by the company to gather pricing from construction companies. So when they give you a unit price through a spreadsheet, you can import that into Builterra and accumulate pricing over time. It's a pretty unique system. It's not available. We haven't seen any competition that covers the full spectrum of contract administration like Builterra does. There's lots of mobile app companies out there and photo collection and things like that, but nobody is connecting AutoCAD and Civil to the actual bid and then doing progress and payments and everything. So Builterra really is covering that full spectrum of technology from start to finish. And there's a look at the sanitary pipe schedule there. So this is what the site looks like. This is a video that we show at our demos. It is built, like I said, on the Azure platform. Looking for projects are located in a mapping system, the Microsoft Bing mapping system. And you can search for projects, add custom details, overlays. You can even add PDF files to the project for available on the mobile device. So it's pretty easy interface for those who are trying to manage all of these projects and do some basic theming and searching based on any one property of the project. So that's the core of the platform right there. And this is what we'll be uploading to in the Civil 3D platform. There's lots of videos on YouTube, and we're repopulating those now, showing the new branding, and hopefully we'll get those up fully in the next few weeks. So let's start off by looking at the standards catalog configuration. This is the guts of how the system works. In other words, you'll have a standardized catalog online, and this comes from your master list of items in the contract administration department. So this is a nice clean look at the pipe network. You've got not just item code and description, but you've got extra fields. In this case, material, diameter, class, and spec. All this information has been augmented to this pay item list to be able to pull it in from Civil 3D. So in some cases, you might not have like all these extra properties. You'll just have item code and description, which is fine too. And we're going to talk about that later. Okay, so the pay item configuration is the second piece of the puzzle here with Builterra. First, you've got the catalog. Then you've got how do I want to pay for it? So in this case, we're looking at a fencing pay item type, and we're going to use height and the fence type as the extra information from Civil 3D, and a note just to add a special note if you need to. So in this case, we're paying for this fence by length. In some cases, like a site plan, you might pay for the fence through lump sum. So you'd want a second pay item type for the same type of fence, but a lump sum amount. So depending on how you're paying for the item, you might want to pick a different type of pay item table, and you'll then attach it to the template. And the template is where we can combine the catalog and the how we're going to pay for it, and we'll talk about that in a second. The Design Connect configuration allows you to select a layer or an object type and then connect it with the tender template. So we're going to go through the details of that during the presentation. And it really is the only complicated part of the product. In other words, connecting these wires, I call them. And this is a good look at how that's connected. In other words, you'll pick, in this case, the Getting Started tender template. Under storm sewers, we're building what you call multiple selection sets. And these selection sets are used to query the drawing for one or more object types. So you could have multiple selection sets under one layer. You know, if you're combining, say, a polyline, a line, and an arc, that's 3 selection sets, all for the same object. When you go ahead and select the sewer pipe, you'll specify that it's an object, a Civil 3D pipe, circular, on a certain layer with a certain style. So we'll do that live in a second so you get a sense of how that works. Okay. And you can do it for AutoCAD objects. So in this case, you're picking a polygon area and attaching it to a certain layer type. And then you're pulling out, you're matching the pay item properties with the properties of the item itself. So if we take a look back at the the pipe here, we're matching the start manhole and the end manhole, the diameter, material, and length with the properties of the actual pipe. The street name would be the alignment name. So when we look at a polyline, we're using, for example, a material which is a constant. We're presetting that it's going to be an HL8 pavement. It's going to sum the areas, and it's going to use a constant, a property set for the road material. We'll demo all this live in a second. So let's take a look at the basic AutoCAD properties. This is based on my demo here, which we'll go through live. So we'll look at some 5 or 6 different object types here, and I'll show you how to set it up. So the first one is the polyline length based on a line type. So fencing was one of the things I was using, or driveway removals in this case. So let's take a look at the AutoCAD drawing, and we're going to start from scratch based on how to set up this project. So starting off with the drawing. So you'll load a drawing. Now you can have models based on multiple drawings. So you can have pipes in one drawing, you can have granular road areas in another. You can have a drawing that's set up specifically for quantity takeoffs. So say the polygon area is on a quantity layer. So you'd want to do all this, in other words, to set it up, and you'd want to do it in a standardized way. So these blocks here, these are landscape blocks on a certain layer. So as long as you're consistently following a standard, it's fairly straightforward to get started. So if we take a look at Design Connect, this is the menu here. Now, obviously the website, you can go in through the website here. There's a website view here, and you can go ahead and log in, and you'll see, say, projects. So I'll give you a quick demo of what that looks like. So these are your different projects here. So roads and sewer, okay. So it zooms to the project, and you can look at various things here, okay. So that's that piece. If you go to the tender menu, tenders, these are the tenders that are in the current system. Okay, so if I go to roads and sewers, there's a historic project there. It's out for inspection, water. So this is how you navigate the system through this main portal menu. Okay, so if I was to look at the tendering system as a whole, I could create a project, a tender through this interface, create tender, or if you're a CAD person, you can also create it through here, create bid. And we use the word bid for some of our American users that are using it. They don't know what a tender is yet, but they know what a bid is. So if we were to go ahead and log in to Builterra, so if I said demo, okay, if I can spell that right. So this would be a live demo of how you would do it yourself. And we would put in our password here. Okay, so we're already logged in. And so now we have a live link to the Builterra system. If I was to go ahead and create a new bid, I could just pick create bid from here. I don't have to go through the website. So then you could pick project. So say it's the road and sewer, and it's, say the CAD Manager. And this is an active job. So it's something we're going to want to price out. And these are the different templates. These templates are set up in your system through the website, connecting the pay items with the catalogs. So if this was a roads and sewer, okay, and so just bid number 1 and go ahead and create. So when you go ahead and create, it builds a brand new bid. And that's just a little message that we had. We got to get rid of that one. So this loads up the exact replica of the schedule unit prices that's already in the system. So this is a copy of the template that we just picked, which was the getting started. If it's been highlighted, it means that it has a configuration already set. So if you didn't have to do any configuration, you could just start querying the drawing. So before we start querying, we should probably look into how do we set this stuff up. So one of the things was the fence line length. So let's take a look at that one. So if we isolate the fence line layer here, these are all the fence lines we have, and it is all in the same layer, but there's 2 different line types. There's a post and wire and a chain link. So what we can do is take a look at how would we query this drawing for that. So if we look under this gear here, this is how everything is set up. So we'll go to the getting started, okay, and under the roadway, there's a fencing category right here. And these selection sets I've already set some up, so we'll review those. If you had to create a selection set, you would just select the create button and then define it. So we'll just pick one here, post and wire. So what it is if you picked an object type, you can pick up all of these different object types. And we just recently put in the water main pressure pipe from Civil 3D. So that's new. Multi-line is new. And you can even pick alignments and profiles if you had to. So this is a polyline, and you can pick any layer, you know, any style of line, okay? So you could try and remember all of that, or you can just hit the select button and you can pick right there. So this is the post and wire fence line number 2. And then once you pick it, then you associate whatever the pay item properties in the fencing category are. In this case, we have item code, description, note, fence line, fence type, length, and height. So what it means is we can then associate this polyline properties with this pay item type here. So if I was to pick note of nothing, okay, fence line type, layer description. Well, that's kind of obscure. You probably would never use that, but you might want to use a property set like this. Okay, we'll type in chain link fence or something. Okay, the length is the total length of fencing, meaning the sum. And then the height would be a property set as well. So we can define that through a dynamic property set, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So the description and the item code, we can leave those blank and for now, and we'll fill it in a second. I'll show you something in a second. So we'll save that. And now we've associated a custom property set for fence type and for height, and here's the length. Okay, so let's close that up. If I go to the website here, and we're going to take a quick look under that new tender, I just want to show you what the options are. And as you get into this, you'll be able to see pretty quickly. There's our road and sewer job that we just set up 2 seconds ago in CAD. And I'll show you what this looks like from the catalog point of view. So if I pick fencing, it automatically knows to look up the fencing here. And there's 2 types of fencing, chain link and post and wire right there. So, okay, so the chain link fence here has an item code of 400.71. The post and wire is 400.72. And these are just arbitrary unique identifiers that we set up for the two fence types. So you could query the drawing for the polylines, and then we'll define how to set it up for the 2 different fence types. So we took a look under fencing one more time, just to make sure we have them both set up right. So if we go to fencing, and we go to the post and wire fence this time, okay, post and wire, and chain link, fence type 3. So we're going to leave the fence type as a property set and property set here. Okay, so it's set up exactly the same way, except we're using a different fence line type. So I want to go ahead and query the fence lines now. So if I go to fencing and I go ahead and query that, see it's got the length, but it doesn't know what kind of fence type because we haven't set it, or it doesn't know the height. So in order to set those things, you have to press this PS button. PS will apply the property sets to those two types of objects. And if it finds that so if I select similar, this guy, so it's picking them all, so we just pick it like this. Okay, and this could take me a second because I didn't put it on a different layer, but that's okay. We'll just pick all these chain links, okay? And there it is, and there it is. So we just picked all these chain links. If you look under extended data, there's a new property set. That's what this is. It's like extra attributes. So if I typed in the word chain link fence, and Civil 3D doesn't have a pull down list option for this yet. So now it's defining itself as a chain link fence right there. Okay, and enter. Okay, and this other guy, we can pick this guy here, and this will be our post and wire. So we'll grab that, And we're just, it'd be nicer if they're on a different layer, obviously, but I'm trying to show you how you can query all your fencing and it'll differentiate. So grab all your post and wire, and we're going to go here and type in post and wire. You have to match the spelling. It's important because this is what we're going to query so when I take a look at my tender, the spelling is going to be exactly the same as chain link fence and post and wire fence. So you have to be a little cautious when you do this sort of thing. Okay, there. So when you pick it, you can see it's been typed in. So now when you requery, it's pulling it in now. It's pulling it in for this stuff. And at these items here, that means it didn't define it. So that's okay. We'll just leave it blank for now. And just when you select search, it will look to the database and find that there is a chain link fence right there, description, fence type. Okay. And it means it found a match on the chain link fence type here. So for example, I probably shouldn't have put in the chain link fence. I mean, I shouldn't use the word fence, right? That's what it's looking for. So I'm really messing up this demo here, but basically now we're getting into grabbing all this information and uploading it to the system. So it's going to use the fence type as a cost estimator. So there, it's uploaded to the system. And for some of this stuff, we'll get a price, and for others, we won't, if it's done its job right. So here's all of the information, and it's looking for a height of a fence to go onward. So that's the first thing. The stripping is the next item that we're going to look at for volume estimates, and it's going to use the thickness of a polyline to get depth. So it's kind of a special thing that we've got in place in order to do that. So the stripping, if we take a look at the properties of that, under stripping, it's using a polygon volume type for the selection set. It's setting the constant for 200.1, which means if I look at my tender here, under stripping, there's the 200.1 code right there. So it's presetting a code, a constant, and the way you do that is you can just pick a constant and you can preset what that exact item is, and it will then go ahead and query the drawing for it. The volume sum means it'll take the area and multiply it by the thickness of the polyline. So if we take a look at that, there's a polygon, okay? And if we look at the properties here, it's using a thickness of 0.3 for a depth, okay? So when we go ahead and query the layer, it's coming up with a total volume, cubic meters. I'm going to go ahead and reverse look up the stripping description, okay, and then submit it to the database. So once it's done that, then it's coming back with a price of $24.19 for stripping per unit, and that's the total price of stripping there. So now it's actually going to the actual tender and pulling in the price from the historic data. Okay, so if we take a look at that through the website, and we'll go to the roads and sewer right there, edit the sections, and we go under earthworks, stripping. So it's filled in the topsoil volume, and it's performed the cost estimate in CAD, just the same way it's done it on the site. Okay, and so if you go back to the PowerPoint here, so that's a closed polygon volume estimate, the multiple selection for single area quantity. So this is driveways and removals or granulars, where it sums up all of the areas. So let's take a look at the idea where you can apply multiple selection sets to a single object. So in this case, we're going to look at, say, the pavement area. So we'll go ahead and isolate this, this area. So this is our pavement area. And so if we go look under roadways or granulars, take a look at the selection sets for that, granulars. So we've got two types of granulars, the granular A and the granular B. And so it's querying this layer for that area. It's forcing the granular A material type for that particular selection set, and it's pulling in an area sum. And the alignment name comes from Civil 3D if you want to attach the alignment name for that. So granular B, it's going to force granular B, and you get two selection sets for the two types of granulars. So when you go ahead and run that, see how it's pulling in the total for granular A and B? When you do a reverse lookup to the catalog, it will bring the item code, the descriptions, and the notes from the catalog. So you're keying off the material ID here. So I know it sounds a bit complicated, but once you get using the system, it's all about, you know, feeding it known information and pulling in from the catalog so you can successfully do your bid. Okay, as far as the street name goes, what you have to do is you have to attach these areas to the main alignment, because it's just a polygon. It's not a Civil 3D object. So you have to tell it, hey, I'm part of alignment A. So in order to do that, you can associate assign alignment. There's an assign alignment option, and you can do it through a Q frame or a single entity. So if I said entity, select the alignment, so I can go here and I can select this entity right here, and that's it, it's done. So you've now selected that's part of the Yonge Street. The Q-frame idea is where you would have boxes, say in a subdivision, so each street would have its own box. And if the area was within a Q-frame area, it would associate to that. So you could do the same thing with Q-frame, and you could select the alignment, and then the closed polygon is here, and anything within that frame is now part of that alignment. So that's for water mains and valves and all these other things that you normally do. So it would associate that, including granular areas. So if we go ahead and query that now, it's pulling in Yonge Street. It knows now that that granular area is part of Yonge Street. And we can resubmit to the system, and it'll query the item code, probably in this case, for a price. So let's take a look at the price here. There it is. There's an average price for our granulars right there. Okay, so same thing with pavement. It's going to do the same exact thing because it's using the same exact area. You'll do a lookup, and it's pulling in different codes for the different types of pavements, and then you submit it to the database right there. So when you do areas, it's very easy to start counting. The curbing, if you've got sidewalks and curbing, just the line work, all of this line work can be counted and assigned to a pay item. Okay, the next thing is, go to our PowerPoint here. The block attributes. So this is good for landscape architects and people, or just anything really, electrical items, street lights, anything that you have a block and possibly an attribute for. So if we take a look at the catalog before we go there, it's a bit of a trick, is I've actually, so if I pick plants here, I always, when I first start doing this, I always have the online bid in front of me so I can get a sense for how the catalog is set up. So then if things don't work out, I can always go back and change things. So this is, the code is actually a new alpha code, which denotes the description of the tree. And if we look at the catalog using the purple button here, this will pull up the landscape plants option here. This is just me under the hood looking at what we've got here. So it's actually using the item code, but then the common name and the Latin name and things group name are all from, say, every plant we have in the system. So this is a sort of a landscape architectural type thing here where the entire plant list is in here. You could drag and drop and quantify things, or in this case, you can go to Civil 3D and we'll take a look at this block here. For example, if I double click it, it's using an item code of WO, and there's one of them, right? And so each plant has some kind of an attribute code attached to it. So that was set during the design. So if we go to the planting landscape architecture piece, plants, when we go ahead and query now, let's see how that's set up in the configurator. And by the way, the configurators can only be, you can do that once, and it should be set for, in the template forever. So we've got plants, shrubs, silva tree cells, actual trees. So there's lots of selection sets that are handled through this one block here. And the block for the plants is a block with attributes. This is the layer that it's on, okay? And the quantity multiplier, we'll just take that off. And it's going to do this. If you look at the item code, it should be the, let me just go ahead and shrubs right there. So here's the item code. Item code BA, that's the block attribute, okay? So same thing with shrubs, okay, plants. So we'll go ahead and select this plant right here. So it's on this thing here and BA right here. So that's the item code. So this is, depending on what you pick as the block, it will change the settings down here, right? So if you go ahead and pick, I think the plants are the little small guys here. Maybe shrubs. Oh, there's the plants there. Okay, plant. There it is, BA. So I've got 4 different types of blocks. That's what I've got going on here. So I'll go ahead and save it. And we'll just make sure the trees are set, looking good. And the shrubs are all set, looking good. So everything's set up the same way. And so when I run the query, it's pulling in the item codes and they're all summed up on a count, okay? And then when I go ahead and search, it's pulling in all that information from the catalog that's been from the plant list. So I can go ahead and submit that to the server and it'll come back to me with a price for those plants, right? There it is. So now we've got pricing for the landscape, shrubs, trees, and plants, okay? All of these things can be done using the same concept. You're just picking objects, assigning the properties, and querying the drawing. And we can help you set that all up if you need to. So all of these bus stations, the curbing, the water main stuff, everything's there. If I take a look at the next category, we talked about property sets, enhancing the query. So we already went through that. Okay, this is the actual out-of-the-box property set creator in Civil 3D. If you're not familiar with it, I'll show you where that is. It's under Home, Manage, Define Property Sets. So when you press the PS button in Design Connect, it creates all of these property sets automatically based on the tendering thing. So like the fencing thing, I noticed was missing the height. That's why we weren't getting a cost estimate. So for some reason I was missing the height. So if I go to fencing, there's our posts and wire. The height is here, okay? And so when I pick fencing object, okay, so I'm missing, for some reason it's not coming out with the height, but we won't worry about that right now. Every object that you've assigned a property set to will write itself to the the property set manager here, the style manager. Very easy way to manage that. For water mains and other things, let's take a look at the Civil 3D bit. Okay. I think we talked about the multiple selection sets. Here's our Civil 3D object quantities, and we'll just do a time check. We got 15 more minutes. Okay, so the pipe networks, like I said, are the lowest hanging fruit because they already have object-based properties. So you can attach anything you want to the pay item very easily. So we'll just go back to that. So this is the drawing here. So this is a typical Civil 3D, object here. Okay, catch basins, pipes, the usual 3D stuff. There's all your pipe networks right there. So it's what you do every day, build these pipe networks. Okay, so if I want to query that, then we'll take a look at the storm sewer configuration here. So real quickly, we'll go to the storm sewers, and it's a single selection set. It's using a Civil 3D circular on this layer with this style, and it's assigning the pay item properties using these object properties. So you can see how the alignment name is set, the diameter, material length, all of that is coming through in that one there. The manhole is the same idea. You're using a Civil 3D structure circular. So you can pull in rectangular or circular, it doesn't really matter. Select is the easiest way to actually preset it. Okay, so you don't have to guess. Catch basin structures are the same idea. We're querying the catch basin object. It's a rectangular structure, and we're using the size of the catch basin to do our query, our cost estimate query. So if we go through this, the storm sewers have been set up. So when you grab it, there's a lot of them. And you can see that this one here, for example, the guy CAD guy didn't put in the right class. So you might want to check that one out. There's a zoom to option here. If you have two screens, you can kind of zoom around the drawing. It's a lot better if you saw my second screen here, but you can kind of zoom around and find out what the culprit is if you're missing a property or something's messed up, right? And the depth is coming from the depth between the average depth between the start and the end point inverts versus the rim. Okay, so if I go ahead and submit that now, all of the diameters are all here, material types, lengths, everything. So if I go ahead and submit that now, it'll go ahead and do it. We put this warning in because what was happening is people were like, hey, it's taking a while, right? It's because what it's doing is it's actually uploading these 40 items. So once it gets past so many items, we get the little message to come up here. And it's actually already submitted to the server, but what the server is doing is it's coming back and giving us a cost estimate based on the data. So it's actually doing quite a bit of work in the background. And once it comes up with this screen, the cost estimate is complete. So in this case, we didn't have any matching. It's probably because the material type was not matching in our previous tenders. Okay, if you go to the manhole structures, you can run the same query. I know this one is good for estimating. We can do a quick reverse search on the diameter of the pipe, and you can see how with 1500 we got the right information with standard and everything else. 2300, because normally these are 2400. These we call them 2400 here in Ontario, so it's missing those. So if you go ahead and submit, it will excuse me, it will update the server with the bid and produce that cost estimate for you. So as long as you have previously submitted data, you'll get a price. Okay, so often it's better to do historic data, and then you'll have that price by the time you do a real job. So there's your pricing there. So catch basins, the same idea. You do a quick query on all of the catch basins. In this case, we're just grabbing the length and the width of it. We'll do an auto lookup on the description of the catch basin. So it's using these parameters in the catalog to get these descriptions. Okay, there you go. So it's going to price it out and total it for the catch basin networks. Okay, and if you're wondering what's been captured or what hasn't been, there's a highlight button right here. And highlight will highlight all of the objects that are in the bid. So if you, like the trees have all been done, the pipes, the asphalt and the granulars, the fencing. So you can see all of that's been highlighted. Okay. Sewer installation is a good one. This one is for the CCTV thing. So if you go ahead and take a look at that, the sewer installation, we'll pull in our website so you can take a look at that. So what it is there's a bunch of random items here: break-in entry, premium backfill, as well as camera inspection, right? So this is by the linear meter for every sewer. So if I wanted to, I can apply this code 300.32 to the selection set. So let's do that. So CCTV, it's taking all the circular pipes. It's applying a constant code of 300.32 to the object, and it's pulling in the length. So that means when I query for sewer installation, it's only going to pull that one piece of information for me. I do a reverse lookup, and it knows that that code is a camera inspection. I go ahead and upload it to the server, and I've got all of my information here. So there's my price for the sewer inspection. Water main, you're going to go through all of these water main. This was all done using Civil 3D. You can use polylines with property sets if you want, but this is all done with Civil 3D. And so if you said water main, it's going to query for the right style on the right layer and sort it by diameter. So we do a reverse lookup and submit. So it's always important to do that lookup so then you get the right item codes. And bring it down, and there's our pricing there. So same thing for hydrants. It's using these structures here. This is a Civil 3D structure. You could use a block if you wanted to, but in this project we use a Civil 3D object, and there's our hydrant information. So I don't know if we have any pricing on that. And we do. So same thing with valves. So all you got to do is just go through your tender and upload everything. So we're getting close to the end here. If you're doing corridors, you can use, there's an extract. When you pick the corridor, you can extract solids. And this will actually produce 3D solids, and you can use the 3D solids as a selection set. And if you want to layer them properly, during the extract solids process, you'll put in the codes, and that will be how the solids are layered. So if you put in the layer name template using codes, all of the pave 1, pave 2, all of that will be on the right layer. And you'll get this kind of idea. You'll get a drawing with all of your solids from the corridor on the right quantity layer. So after that, you just hook up the right layer to the right granulars and pavement, concrete, sidewalks, etc., and you'll get a full quantity takeoff for solids. And there it is there. That's an example of what that looks like. Okay, so you can use Design Connect for that, or you can just use the out-of-the-box Civil 3D to produce your section quantities. Okay, so there's the cost estimate within Civil 3D. Exporting to tables. This is something we put in just to get a quick table based on these sort of a polygon area kind of idea. So if I picked, for example, the plants, that's an easy one, and I pick table, you can put in, there's a quick quantity table. These aren't dynamic, by the way, they're just static, but it gives you a good idea of how that works. Okay, and the next bit here, exporting to Excel. Okay, so we're getting near the end here. Without going to the website, if you go ahead and do all of your queries and everything is looking good, there's an Excel button, and the code that it runs here is the same code that the website runs. It's exactly the same. So if I said, earthworks, there's our stripping area right there. There's all of our storm sewers that we pulled in, right? And some of them have prices because we actually had pricing from before. Same thing with the water main. We have all of our water main and our hydrants, just like that. Okay, any roads, there's all our granulars. So this is using the exact same code as the website. So if you go to the website, it's these same buttons here. So if I go ahead and run cost estimate, it produces the same exact spreadsheet as what you just saw on the CAD drawing. So, and here it comes. So it's verbatim, the same thing. So if you don't like the grouping and sorting, you would have to go into the configuration here or the template and change that. So that's a different webinar to change all that stuff. Okay, so this is how you do the quantity takeoff in CAD. I've got a couple minutes. If anybody has any questions, let me just go to my finalizing the bid. Yep, okay, I got through that. The price for our customers is based on users. Anybody who creates data, you can view the tenders and photos and everything for free, but if you're creating tenders in CAD, you have to have at least the tender user capability. So that's $4.95 a year. And so if you're running CAD estimates, you need to be paying for the Compose version, $4.95. If you're actually setting up bids and doing tendering and payment certificates and everything, it's $9.95 a year. If you have any questions, you can ask them through the web portal, and I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, you can always email me privately, and if you want to set up a proper training session with details, I'm totally open to doing that. I can drop by and we can go through it, especially if you're already a subscriber to Builterra. It's really easy to just hook up what you've already got started in your tendering system and get that set up to do it from CAD. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I guess we'll leave it at that. Here's my contact information. Call me if you want to do something regarding CAD takeoffs, and I'd be, like I said, happy to come by and show you how to get that done. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.